This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. On the Two Business Guys Mastermind, we have guest Alvin Hills IV, business owner, full-time employee, husband, father, and friend to many. We ask, how are you fitting it all in so that your business can win? Enjoy. All right, welcome back, everybody. The Two Business Guys are masterminding, and guess what? We brought another person in, and you're going to be excited about this young man because should I say young man? Because we're all kind of young here, but you know what I mean.
Hey man, I'm gonna take it as long as you're giving it, man.
We are excited to have Alvin Hills IV, and just a little background on Alvin: business owner, full-time employee. I want to add that in there. Full-time employee, husband, father, and friend. And we've, of course, got more stuff. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about on today's show is how are you fitting all of this stuff in? How are you juggling business with all the things that are going on? All the things that could be affecting your ability to get out there and earn, affecting your energy, affecting the person that you bring back home to your family. So we're going to be talking with this guy because I'm telling you, he's got a lot of stuff going on. John,
I've been in the blender, man, for like the last 3 years, I think.
he's been in the blender, and y'all know what that means, right? Y'all got a good drink
coming. Man, I got a 3-year-old, an 18-month-old. So my life's been a little wild the last 3 years. So I've been to this point juggling business for a while now in a more, I guess, unique way than I've had to before. But it's cool.
I love it.
Before, yeah.
We talk about multi-hyphenates all the time, right? People that are doing a whole bunch of stuff. John, add something to this. Multi-hyphenates, this is the rise.
Well, first I have to say, welcome, fellow Bronco.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations on the Challenger Award.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. That piece is always, well appreciated and received, man, because you don't do it for that, but to get the affirmation that what you're doing is having some impact. In Grand Rapids, West Michigan, we have a ton of different opportunities to increase equity around here. And it doesn't always feel good. It doesn't always, you don't always see the progress immediately, but opportunities for those awards really just kind of reaffirm what you're doing and give you a little bit more wind underneath your sail to keep going.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And you just started a new project this year, the YouTube video series, the interview series, you and Jonathan Jelks.
Absolutely.
Talking about technology, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Midwest Tech Project, we've been around since 2016, and our whole thing is, our tagline is bringing technology to the neighborhood. We want to make technology more representative racially, so more Black people, more brown people in the industry, but also gender-wise. But with COVID, pre-COVID, we were in person having sessions with our students in our mentoring programs, having panel discussions, keynotes in person with millennials, Gen Xers looking to gain information on the industry, maybe make a job change. But of course, we had to all go virtually, right? So now our thought is, let's make sure that we, maintain a very virtual presence. Let's make sure, moving from, post-COVID, that no matter what, we'll always have the virtual piece, and even just enhancing what we're doing there. But our first guest is a gentleman by the name of Corey Oostervaan, and he was just an amazing young man that we met in the tech space. He was working for OST when we first met him, but he's a super futuristic gentleman. And he has a consultancy that works out of China, so he does a lot of product development. And just whenever we get together off the camera, me and John just always walk away like, oh, we got some notes to take. We Googling terms that he's saying. But it's, for us, it's the information that we're not getting on a regular basis. And how do we take a gentleman like Corey, make some of his content digestible,
Mhm.
then repurpose it for the community to be able to take some nuggets out of there. So moving forward, we'll be having it's a podcast, but it's really like the tech talks, but making sure that the information is really digestible and it gets to the intended targets. And he's talking about crypto, cybersecurity, some futuristic things. And I wish I would have knew what I knew about crypto about 5 and 6 years ago.
Back then, right?
As everybody says, that when people are running around with Bitcoin, I'm like, I don't have a clue. How do you spend it? And that was just me being the person who was thinking in the box still, right? And
Mhm.
not understanding that this thing is a decentralized currency with a limited, cap, which means that supply is never going up, but demand will. And as we
Exactly.
talk about
Exactly.
how to protect the dollar from being devalued, this is just an alternative way of growing your purchasing power in another arena. But you got to have something to put over there because you still need to
Still
be
need
able
some
to
cash.
day to day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we'll start releasing the first one next month, and we'll have at least a monthly presence there. But even thinking about, how do we take everything we do, make it virtual until we can get back in person. But even once that time comes, we'll still have the virtual presence in our in-person opportunities as
That's
well.
good. And that's a
Are you
great
reaching
opportunity.
are you reaching an audience greater than those in West Michigan right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially with this our background or our networks. To your point, being a fellow Bronco, have Broncos all over the U.S. and getting them to like and share and be able to share that message. But our goal is to create a national presence, especially around the tech space. And we have a couple things coming out real soon from some platforms like Blavity and Afrotech, and really trying to make sure that the narrative is where it needs to be as we think about some call it building back better, from COVID, and really making sure as we had the opportunities for, I would say, the conscience of some white Americans with George Floyd and whatnot, where you see all these companies putting BLM up everywhere and those things. But we want significant investment and partnership like what Apple is doing in Detroit, creating a developer school. Like until the industry does things like that and more pockets than just Detroit around America, we're not going to see the representation that we're looking for in the industry. But also it's corporate social responsibility too. So these corporations should be making those investments, and we want to be able to help push that or accelerate those type of happenings around the U.S. and outcomes, and leveraging partners like our good friends over at Microsoft, who have a super large platform to get some of their insight into what they're doing, but also be able to speak into hopefully contributing to the things that they're doing to make sure it has an equitable lens on it.
That's good stuff, man. I tell you, it's consistent with what you've been doing for a lot of years now with endless opportunity. So now we talked about Midwest Tech Project,
Mhm.
but you were also the co-founder of Endless Opportunities, if I'm not mistaken, with your
That's my
wife.
first. That's our first baby
Mhm.
there. Yeah, so
Talk a little
two.
bit about that. I'm really super curious about that.
Yeah, so endless opportunities, man. Me and my wife are both Broncos, both in Divine Nine fraternities and sororities. So I'm a part of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. She's a part of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority incorporated. So shout out to our Madam Vice President, Miss Kamala Harris, because the sorority sisters with my wife. So my wife been wearing her pearls and pink and green for
I bet
about
she has.
the
Absolutely.
last 2 weeks. But we both came out of those where we were able to mature ourselves as young people through those organizations that were very service based, right? So at 19 years old, I'm trying to figure out who I am, but as I started approaching this organization, one of the requirements was I had to go tutor young people in the neighborhood. And for me, that was cool. I want to make sure that one of my things, as I've always uh, moved through life, was to ensure that whatever talents I have, whatever expertise I could give or resources I could lend, make sure that I was accessible to people that look like me. One of the things that I feared the most was being, quote unquote successful, but then being the person who never reinvested what they were able to obtain back into the place that mean the most. So we both were in those organizations, and sometimes we had innovative ideas that leadership of your peers can't really grasp or were ready to implement. So we were just like, we need something that we could, a tool or a vehicle that we could utilize until we transition from this thing called Earth that we could implement the things that we like to see. So we are, you know, for Endless Opportunity, we deliver innovative mentoring experiences for young people everywhere. And what that looks like for us is I didn't learn what dinner etiquette was until I was 19 years old at Western Michigan University, and they had etiquette dinner. So I'm in there, don't know what fork to use, not not knowing what cup I was supposed to be drinking out of, but the whole concept was to create a network of success for these young people who may not have a network, teach them the tools, the skills, and real time experiences so they could see how it feel like, so they could shake the discomfort off far before I was able to. And the goal is after they leave our program, they'll be comfortable in who they are as a young leader. They'll be able to adjust to any situation that they're put in because they'll have at least some familiarity with it.
That's right.
And we still get texts and calls to this day from our investment into young people, and pretty much with Endless Opportunities, after school based mentoring for middle and high school young men and women, focus on life skills development, financial literacy, entrepreneurship, brother and sisterhood. We start off every meeting with the motivational piece. And for us, we want to make sure that young people are putting motivational things into their spirit besides music, movies. We want to complement or teach them how to fish for, the energy that they're looking for. And then we want to see how they how they process that information, right? What's the things that they're taking away from some of those pieces that we watch. So Eric Thomas is a huge asset of ours, man. We tap into him pretty frequently. And for myself, he works for me. So I figure if I'm taking something from it, let's see what these young people are. But we've had speed networking to help. So speed networking, we'll get about 30, 40 professionals in the room. We'll orientate them to what we're doing. So pretty much they're looking to evaluate students on their handshake, their attire, their elevator speech, their ask for a business card. And we work with the students leading up to that session, but they'll spend 2 minutes with each of those professionals. And the top three students will be receive cash scholarships. And what I love about what I do is, or what we do is, we incentivize it, right? So we always hear how powerful networking is. But for me, growing up in Grand Rapids, I wasn't really put in the place to network a lot and then also understand what I'm doing to
Mhm.
to understand the impact of my networking. So we wanted to make sure that student came with a competitive mindset to say, hey, let me come in here, meet as many people as I can, get some business cards, follow up for some future opportunities, which could be an internship, entry level employment. You just kind of, never know. But again, working with Grand Rapids Public Schools is a passion of myself and my wife's, because we both are product of Grand Rapids Public Schools. So we want to make sure that Endless Opportunity complements what the school system is doing, fills in any gaps that the school system may not be able to do because of funding, because of legality, whatever the case may be. But
Sure. Yeah.
we also like to position ourselves as a liaison between mom and student, or
Hmm.
student and institution, to ensure that advocacy for our young people is happening, and parents have a resource to do so.
That's good stuff, man. I noticed that I had an office in the same building
Mhm.
that you guys met. So, every time I was leaving for the day, I'd go down and sneak in and dip my head in and see you guys, and they're just doing some good stuff, man. I certainly appreciate what you're doing.
And thank you.
So now we talked about that, right? We got co-founder of Midwest Tech. We got Endless Opportunities. And I know you're the author of the upcoming book, Leading by Example, 8 Effective Principles of Mentorship. You're a
Got other
full-time employee.
hmm
I mean, how are you getting it all in, man? How are you doing
Man.
this? Give us some
First,
tips and
well,
tricks.
look,
These
first and
business owners
foremost,
need to know.
I gonna say first and foremost, I just got to thank my wife because she deal with my craziness, because it's just the way I'm wired, right? First and foremost, I had to get better at time management
Yeah,
and blocking off on the calendar when things have to happen. Because if they're not on the calendar, they're not gonna happen.
hear that.
As I expressed, I have a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. So over the last 3 years, I had to build out the team, give up some. some responsibility in order for these things to continue to happen. Because one of my good friends always tell me, he says, AJ, the less you do, the more you can do. And for me, I just think about investment in the people as well. So how can I, create some employment opportunities? How can I contract with some other entrepreneurs and business owners to help me meet my outcomes? But yeah, man, it's just when it comes to how, it's the simple, simple competitive drive in me every day to go get it. And I know based upon what I've learned, especially since '06 with the first downturn and, the recession, that no one's going to bring me opportunities. No one's going to make sure that I have food on my table and clothes on my back, roof over my head besides me. And
That's
I,
good.
I got comfortable in that at a super young age. So now my whole thing is I've been amongst the craziness for probably 10 years now, as far as just always maintaining a heavy schedule from college, when you have classes,
Hmm.
extracurriculars, organizations, starting a business there. I was juggling it there, and now the stakes are higher for sure with being a father, a husband, and those things. And to that point, I have to carve out time that I just leave the phone on the counter and be present with my family, because
Hmm.
in order for me to be able to continue to uh, give outside the home, I got to make sure that inside the home is taken care of. So the tools
Absolutely.
that I'm using is technology, investment in the people, and then you know dedicating more time daily to the work,
That's
because
good.
Mhm.
I
There's some
just know.
specific tools. Now,
Yeah.
when we have the business owners that are listening in and they go, okay, well, tell me what. I understand we have to do that, right? We've got time management and then we have energy management. That's one of the biggest things, depending on where you are on the entrepreneurship spectrum, right? If you're super young, maybe you got a ton of energy, but you don't know how to manage stuff. If you're a little bit older, maybe you got all these tools, but you don't have any energy anymore. So, are
Mhm.
there some specific tools that you can share with our audience that you use to help you get it all done, or techniques?
Yeah. Well, I guess project management. That'd probably be the first thing. So I had to outsource that over the last year to really for the whole entire portfolio, right? Like I need somebody who could take all of my madness that I got going on, put it on the timeline, the structure, a structure plan, but then also says, AJ, where are we at with this? And that's really helped me, because we kind of talked about that earlier. Just the outside voice that says, hey man, you said we was going to be doing X, Y, and Z this month. I haven't seen anything.
Right,
And,
right.
you know, for me, it's necessary. And most successful companies have some form of baked in accountability inside in the form of project management.
Hmm.
Uh, but before you can do all that, it's just the self assessment and being honest with yourself, right? Like uh, any business owner knows what it takes to get it from ideation to where it is. And then eventually you have to kind of get out the way sometimes. And
How
it's
true is
not,
that?
yeah, it's not you giving up your company, but you have to be able to bring in, like you said, fresh legs, fresh minds, be able
Hmm.
to train people on what they need to do. You can't just bring someone in and not train them to how you want things to be done, but expect them to be met. But so as a business owner, you have to look at yourself when it comes to training too. Like, am I the best communicator to actually train this person on what I need them to do, or is that something I may need support with? So any business owner out there, I think it's just a self assessment of where are your gaps, right? If you have gaps, then it's about how do I fill those gaps, and whatever your budget is, there's opportunities out there for you to get, for you to find good work, employees, contractors to help you fill that void. But if you're not real with yourself, you're not going to be, your business will suffer at some point down the line. So I see that challenge, all the time, especially in my day job. I work with businesses of all sizes, right? So everything from startup to businesses who've been established for 25 years. And now we have a ton of owners who are looking to sell and get out of their businesses. And But what happens to the ecosystem, right? If we don't have someone to acquire that business, if they're super vital to the ecosystem, then the ecosystem will suffer after that. And
That's a
some
good
business
point.
owners have to, some business owners don't have kids or family members who want to step in and run those companies. So how do we help them get connected to talent so that the talent could come in and potentially acquire? The business owner walks away with a nice bag of money, and the ecosystem lives on.
That's good
Um,
stuff, man.
one of
So
the sorry,
no, go
one of
ahead,
the
John.
things that I often talk with business owners about is that you have to be able to, at the end of the road, you want to be able to monetize your business in the form, that's generally the retirement vehicle for business owners is selling their business.
Yeah.
Well, most businesses aren't sellable because they're based solely on that person.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't brought somebody in, they haven't created processes and ways of doing things where they've written it down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that can continue to operate like that. Uh, Basically, what they're doing is they're selling them themselves to the consumer world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that model can work for some time, but
Mm-hmm.
if you want the business to survive, post yourself. And John, you hit on something I think most business owners need to write down right now, and that's standard operating procedures, right?
That's right.
If you were to be, taken away from your company right now, would they have the blueprint to continue to execute the way that you need them to? And if you don't, then that's a great opportunity right now to start just writing down your processes. Your contacts, who do you go to for what, and kind of leave like the playbook or the business Bible
Mm-hmm.
for whoever may succeed you, because even with the bigger institutions nowadays, with the retirements, through the roof, so much institutional knowledge is leaving these institutions. But the same for private sector as well. Once someone leaves, some of the relationships, processes go with them. Then the new person has to come in and build, which isn't always bad, but starting from scratch is trouble. If you
Right.
have something that you could revise and refine for efficiency, that's cool, make it more leaner. But if you don't have anything, then that puts you in a really bad position, especially when you have customer demand and orders that need to be fulfilled and things like that. You'll find yourself running on the wheel, just trying to the hamster wheel, just trying to keep it all afloat. But to Randy's earlier point, then your energy's being shot.
That's
Now you
right.
start to feel like the business is a pain and just wearing on you. But those SOPs, I would highly encourage business owners to just take some time out, think about that, and tell whoever your number two is, or if you're the only person in the business, tell a good friend, spouse, someone else, kind of where that playbook is.
I was doing some coaching this past week with an entrepreneur, and one of the first things that I said to him, I says, tell me about your team. Tell me who you are leveraging yourself. How are you duplicating yourself? And how are they taking up some? And he told me, hey, I'm doing pretty much everything. And as a result, he was missing out on massive amount of sales. He says, well, I can't close the sales because I'm working in that business. I'm doing this part of it. So one of the things that, I helped him put in place was literally reaching out to 4 to 5 people, right, that want to be a part of what you're doing, that kind of catches your vision, and start saying, hey, how can you contribute to this? It's a pay to play kind of a situation, right? If we grow, if we earn, we all eat.
Yep.
Not none of that, employeeship stuff, right? Where you just come in and you're drinking coffee all day, right? But hey, how can
They'll
we
drink a
grow
lot of
this thing?
coffee too if you
Say it again.
so they'll drink a lot of coffee too if you
They'll
don't.
drink a lot of coffee, right, at the water cooler every hour. And so it's like, if we are achieving these things, we do it together, and then you get, some of that. We eat from that, right, from that planting, if you will.
No, I,
And
I
that was
love that.
tough.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was tough for him to kind of get his mind around, right,
Because
because he wants to build this thing.
he might have to give up some equity, man. Especially on where the business is and where it could potentially be, and that's a conversation, right? And
That's it. It
you know,
is.
you-
It is.
and I tell business owners all the time, it's kind of unreasonable to think that you're going to maintain 100% equity of this thing if you
Right.
wanted to really blow out of the out of the stratosphere And typically, but it has to make sense, right? If you're bringing on a partner and you're giving up equity, it has to completely make sense, like a no-brainer. You know what I mean?
I tell you
To,
that
to
can be difficult too, right? I told John a lot. I like playing in my own sandbox, right? And but when you want to grow, when you want to leverage, you got to do some co-founding. I spent a whole year just working with others,
Mhm.
right, to kind of get myself out of that my own sandbox approach. And I
Yeah.
noticed that you do a lot of co-founding. You'll start things with other people. How does that work out for you? Because people move at a different pace than you do sometimes.
Oh yeah, man. It's adjustment. I tell you that. But again, the co-founders that I've co-founded with, it was a no-brainer. When I think about my wife and our mission for endless opportunities, there's no way that I can be effective with young ladies. It's not,
Mhm.
just it's for that demographic. She has to be there. She has to move the business to impact young ladies and impact mothers and millennial women. It's just no way that I could do that. So when it comes to the balance of it, she's more, I'm more of the visionary, the strategy, and she's more of the operations. As most, most people like things a very certain way, and that was something we had to get used to. Just also, kind of separating our relationship from kind of our business relationship. And she has a public health background, master's in public administration, but me going to business school, the Hayward College of Business, as John knows, I came out of the 4-year degree thinking business, 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 business.
Right.
And she was thinking I wanted to help people, healthcare. She didn't even understand all of the business functionality that she was actually implementing when it comes to the healthcare industry. So once we co-founded Endless Opportunities, she had an opportunity to grow some of her business acumen and process and functionality. And for me, it took uh, patience and growth on my behalf to try to be patient and understand that her journey wasn't mine. And
that's
how do we,
that's important.
how we got here. But now that we're here and we think about where we could go, she's a awesome partner, awesome co-founder, and we simply wouldn't be where we are today without her. And when it comes to Jonathan, especially for the Midwest Tech piece, Jonathan has been putting in his own work in the city for decades. In this, as a young man, he's done decades worth of work already. And when I think about him, he matches the hustle. He matches the appetite for more and
He's an entre hustler, huh?
yeah, and the desire to go get it. And in our city, man, um, I just didn't see a ton of people that were younger who were doing that. And
Mhm.
you go to bigger cities, you could probably tap into the ecosystem a way more, easily and be amongst your peers. Uh, but when I came here with his background, his network, and when we start thinking about technology, he was kind of, the broader workforce development, how the Midwest has been deindustrialized and where do we go forward. And me with, my aspect was more of the familiarity from the nonprofit space, the people, being a people investor and working with, people up to that point to where we just kind of merge those two worlds with the mission of, man, we got to get more of our people into this industry because
Mhm.
as we've already seen, automation has replaced, millions of people that look like us jobs, but where do they go in the next 20 years, right? And I have cousins, I have, nieces, nephews, and it's my responsibility to ensure that they know where the opportunities are, but also create some resources to help get them into the industry. And as I looked at the Grand Rapids landscape for, tech opportunities, man, it was just like a no-brainer, right? Like that type of people always say, man, what you gonna do if we figure this thing out? I was like, I don't have to think about how to make tech more diverse. Like I encourage you to put me out of business per se in the
Mhm.
Midwest tech space because if that happens, then I know that plenty of people that look like me are making a livable wage. They have the opportunity to be the employee and go outside and contract and make a couple extra dollars. They're in the industry that's never going away. Million of job opportunities. So I welcome that for sure. So when it comes to the balance of being the co-founder, man, you have your challenges too, and you have to have a process for how you work through those challenges, right? So
Yeah,
if something isn't aligned, all right, we gotta take a step back. Let me hear, let's go in depth. It's kind of like you're in court, right? Tell me your case, plead your case and help me understand what you're saying, and then let me rebuttal. And if the respect would have, the respect is there if that's, someone that you're already doing business with. It should be. It's not,
that's good.
not always, but most of the time you figure out a way of how you move forward from challenging points and kind of institutionalize that. So as you're doing it in real time, we both know who each other are. We give each other that look. Hey, we're gonna have to go back and digest this a little bit more before we commit. It's cool with no pressure, but the values have to be aligned for sure. And with both of my partnerships, it's about the people. It's about the work first. And in Grand Rapids, we do need to make sure that people are compensated for what
Yeah,
they're contributing to the ecosystem, because for generations, man, people like myself could be contributing to the ecosystem so heavily, but never even having the opportunity to be recognized, whether it was an award or supported, whether it's investment into the company.
that's
Uh,
a good point.
and we want to make sure that, moving forward, it's just more people who have the opportunity that look like us to really help move the needle.
And that John, we talk about that a lot too. Is we get the idea, and one of the first things that we start masterminding on is, okay, all right, let's bring the revenue. All right, and we talk about cost cannot come in the door unless revenue it brings its friend revenue. Come on,
Yeah.
revenue, you got to come with me. I can't get in the door,
I
right?
know
So
that.
when you're thinking about the projects that you start, do you think from the revenue goal standpoint or the outreach standpoint, or do you bring a partner in that has that vision and you say, I'll go find the money?
Typically with my projects, it's about honestly the legacy of it, right? So if I'm gonna do anything, in which I think I've been pretty successful at, is I try to keep any project that I'm doing some form or fashion an investment into community and people. From there, to your point, in order for a company to be a company, in order for you to continue to do the work, you have to have revenue. You have to, create some resources. So for me, I always start with, what is the outcome that I would love to see. And then from there, start baking in some opportunities to create revenue to, help drive it. So I definitely start with the bigger vision of the outcome, and then figure out how to monetize portions of what I'm doing, or create some new, ancillary pieces that drive revenue to help roll up to the bigger vision.
So
Yeah.
Alvin, you're you remind me a lot of myself.
Oh, well,
You
thanks.
it seems that you view business, and Randy and I have talked about this a lot, the same way that I view business. And uh, 10 years ago when my brother and I were in business to now, this is something that I've been talking about is partner with people to complement
Mhm.
your weaknesses.
Abs-
Because there's no way that I'm good at everything. I have weak spots.
Oh yeah.
And I think too many times we have entrepreneurs that try to do too much. They try to do things that, hey, you know what, I'm not gifted in this area, I'm not talented in this area, and I'm actually preventing the business from growing by not bringing somebody in and helping the business grow. Because I can own 100% of nothing, or 50% of a million or two, three, $10 million company.
hmm
And that's much better than 100% of nothing. The other thing that I like that you obviously have embedded into your mindset is this social entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
believe I believe that business is changing, it's morphing, and we've seen that with the B Corp
hmm
within the last few years and whatnot. But I think business is going to be this hybrid of uh, for it's going to have to be profitable. So you're going to have that business side, but it's also going to be have a sense of, hey, you know what, I'm gonna do good, because I think that we as individuals and consumers want to see that in the products and services that we buy, that we want to make sure these are products and services that are supporting the cause, that are taking care of the environment, that are doing the things that I believe in. For so long, I think we've put our heads down and not paid attention to the brands
Yeah.
that we've supported, and I think that's very important. And I see that within your business model.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, just hearing you talk, the words "profits over people" came to mind, and a lot of businesses, I think traditionally it's all about the bottom line, and not so much how we get there. But maybe over the last 5 years or so, consumers are becoming super conscious, and it speaks to the access to information, right? Like, for me, I think about it from an ethical standpoint of, if my mother was to learn that I was making money doing this,
Right,
what would
right.
she say? What would she say? And
Right. Yeah.
for me, that's always been kind of a foundation for anything I did. If someone pulled the curtain back to say, "Hey, this is really what's going on," would I be okay with that? And for me, absolutely. But too many times, I believe we put profits over people, and that may have delivered before. Now, with the access to technology and information, and how quickly someone could either elevate your business or tank your sales, you have to be aware of that. And I think any business owner, as of now, should be positioning themselves to make sure that they have some corporate good built into their business model. Make
That's
sure
right.
they're socially responsible, and as we think about the ecosystem in general, we all want a more enhanced ecosystem. We all want easier access to funding and VC opportunities and other things. But if we don't all invest from our companies into the on ramps or the talent pipeline, then we're never going to collectively get to where we like to be. And for me, it's rooted in my experiences as a Black man, especially in West Michigan. So what I do for social good is because I know I have cousins and friends in the neighborhood who don't have as many opportunities as me, that haven't had the lived experience that I've had with being able to go off to college, study business in London, just be able to travel the globe and have a global perspective at such a young age. But they deserve the investment. When I think about Grand Rapids, it should be really an emergency for Black community when it comes to employment and poverty. And we should be really coming up with some innovative ways to create more access from a funding standpoint to make sure that the needle is moved around here, because you can't have the Black eye on a awesome community being one of the worst places economically
That's
for
right.
African Americans,
Right.
and still tout the number one place to raise a family. And I'm not foolish to think that I could ever rise above, the circumstance or the culture of my people. What I mean by that is, like, I'm gonna always be a Black man, no matter how much money I make, no matter where I live. I'll always be a Black man, and I do have some type of Black privilege right now, right? Um, but I'm not a fool to think that I'm some exception to the rule. No. So I know that if I go get in my car and I go drive down the wrong street, I could be, targeted and pulled over. They don't care who I work for, what type of businesses I own. They might care after the fact, depending on depending on where I'm at, because now I might have to call a captain or the chief or something,
Right. That's right.
but I want to create a ecosystem where people don't have to think about those things. And that's, I feel like, again, from my experiences at being a part of the fraternity, just the foundation that my family has built for me and instilled for me, and then part of my name, when Randy said the fourth, he's one of the very few people that sticks it, right? They give me Alvin Hills, but the fourth is a huge part of who I am.
That's
And
right.
my great grandfather was a Baptist preacher, so he was in the people business as well. And My family always asks like, "Are you gonna go into ministry?" You know, those type of things, and I just always tell them like, "No, like what I, my form of people investment is what I do now." And
Mhm.
I've taken the foundation my great grandfather set, and I'm not in the pulpit, preaching the word, but I am, implementing the principles of the word uh,
Mhm.
in the community, and baking that into what I do.
That's a ministry in itself. And I've had this conversation with individuals as well. Is I think that there has to be good business leaders with good ethics.
Yeah,
So the ethics that you learned from your grandfather who passed down to you, we need to take that into the business world. Business world shouldn't be this cutthroat dog eats dog world, in the way that it's been for forever.
mm,
And I so yeah, you are doing a form of ministry, and a while back you might have caught me smile a little bit when you had talked about the dinner, the dinner at Hayworth
yeah,
College of Business. And I remember going to that one, and I went to a couple after that, with employers that I had worked with had sent me. But growing up a poor kid, not knowing that, I was really intimidated.
hmm
Even going in, not knowing how to place the napkin, not knowing which, to start, from the
that's that's the
outside
truth.
in, and didn't know how to eat soup that you
That's a
because soup,
soup
I
spoon, man.
yeah. But 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 just how information like that, even though it might seem very small to individuals,
hmm
but it was, to me, as someone who didn't grow up around anything like that, that was intimidating, but at the same time, it was providing me valuable information that I
That's right.
wasn't getting
Yeah,
in, my family, or the circle that I traveled at, my friend group. At that time, nobody knew any of that stuff.
yeah,
And I think that's one of the things that, uh, a lot of individuals who grow up richer, or whatnot, well established, that they take for granted. And I think about this with my kids. My kids have had a much different experience in life than I have
as,
had in
as
life.
they should, as they should.
And but it's at the same time, how do I instill in them that there is a responsibility? Because if no one would have invested in me, then I would not have been able to do some of the things that I've done,
That's right.
because I was headed nowhere. I mean,
Yeah,
I have friends who ended up in prison. I have friends who are addicted to drugs
mm,
and dead and everything else.
yeah,
And it's, I think we have to be cognizant that we are investing in the younger generations, that we are investing in people, and that we are giving those opportunities. Um, because I know, for me, if I wasn't given, if somebody did not give me a chance, I would not be sitting here talking to you on this podcast today. I
Right.
don't know if I would be living. I don't know if what I would be doing. I mean, I'm the son of a janitor, and my mom was a factory worker. So
hmm hmm
who knows? I could be cleaning something right now, or whatnot, as my dad was doing every weekend, and us kids went along and helped him. But
absolutely.
uh, but how do we get that message out to the business community that, hey, this isn't just about you, but if we really want to build communities, if we really want, an avenue to out of poverty for generations to come,
hmm
how do we invest? And I've looked at both of your nonprofits, both of your organizations are based in that mentoring,
hmm
um, atmosphere, which is very powerful, and I really like that. But what message would you give to business owners to do the same, to invest back into people?
Well, I think you hit on a ton, man. I was thinking so much, John. So to the point about what business owners should do. They've had a mentor. Simple. They've had a mentor who they call in their darkest hours, who helped them sort through whatever challenge was before them, and they came out better on the other side. And I think they have, multiple mentors, throughout their business experience who have helped them achieve, who they are. So I think, really just asking them, who helped you, let them allow them to kind of go down the emotional roller coaster of, yeah, man, that person did this for me. They called this bank. They, set up this meeting for me, and allow them kind of to reflect on how they felt during those moments of uncertainty, right? Because for business owners, and what I've learned super young was how to navigate uncertainty. And some people, they avoid it. They completely try to hide until it's over, and some try to move forward and contribute to the uncertainty falling in their direction, i.e. work strategically, try to knock down as many more barriers as they can. But if I'm talking to any business owner right now who maybe doesn't believe in mentorship as much as I do, I'll start there. And then, once, they'll probably also have an example of a time where they had to be a mentor as well. And once they saw that employee or that student do better on the other side, how did that make them feel as well? And then when businesses are, they love the pictures of students, they love the community engagement as it relates to PR, right? So they already understand the value of how this could really enhance or make it look like being socially responsible. So now we just need some more dollars in an intentional way, and you could have that feeling for generations to come for what you contributed to the ecosystem from your business standpoint. So business owners already know, know how, you know, the value of mentoring. I hear a lot of people just don't understand how
I,
to do it.
That
yeah,
And
process.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
and that's why I would love to just talk to them about, especially if I'm talking to a company that got plenty of resources. Man, this is easy. But if it's a smaller, if it's a smaller firm, then it's just more so maybe so, the investment of dollars and investment of collective wisdom. So we always pulling on, in any of my efforts, we're pulling on experts from the industry just to, and especially in the tech space, some share how you became a black female software engineer. Like,
Mm,
just come talk to us about that. And from them sharing their experiences, our young ladies just understand, like, oh, yeah, I'm already doing most of this. You know what I
that's
mean?
right.
Now I just need to maybe concentrate my efforts a little bit, get on ask some bigger questions. But they also will then sometimes just need opportunity to sit in on a project and contribute
Yeah.
to one of those things. But most business owners understand the value of mentorship. They just might not understand the best way of how to do it. So hey, I'd love to come, have a conversation with you, but it might take some investment for
That's right.
that business owner to bring in somebody who's intentionally going to come in and work on that area of the business for them, if that is a passion of theirs, to make sure that their business legacy has a contribution back into the community.
I love legacy versus income, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I love when you had posited that legacy versus income. I mean, it is the consideration that we understand we got to make money.
yeah,
But we also understand that the undercurrent of creating something that's going to last past the money,
yeah.
right? And
If
this is
it
what I was
money
curious
finds
about.
the good ideas, money finds the good ideas.
And this is something that I wanted to ask you about when you had thought about the book, and I work really closely with you on that book, right? So, I want to, when you were thinking about leading by example, right, that was the title that I remember we had kind of formulated a title, and then he says, no, I think this one,
Mhm.
leading by example, the 8 effective principles of mentorship. What was some of the things that you were thinking about as you were putting that down on paper?
Man, so first thing, one of the first things I was thinking about is LeBron James, and that gentleman. No matter how you feel about his skills on the court, you can have the goat debate, whatever you want to say, but he leads by example. And when I was thinking about this book, I wanted to be a resource of how to take the person who has no clue about mentorship and give them a baseline that was very digestible, very comprehensive, that they could take that book and begin to get closer to being a mentor, or being mentored, even if they were looking for the understanding of a mentor. But I think our greatest examples are people who are most influential to us as culture. They simply just walk the walk, right? And then from there, once they start sharing how they walk the walk, then more people tap in, because they understand what they're getting is authentic. They understand that, the person who's writing these words actually are, is doing it every day. So for me, my track record speaks for itself. And I just wanted to be able to eliminate the barrier of, I don't know
That's
how
good. That's it. The
to.
how to. That's what I kept hearing, and when I was working with you on this project, is I kept hearing the how to. It's so steeped in how to.
Mhm.
How to, something like that, mentorship, right? Hey, I'd love to mentor, but I just don't know how. Well, here's a blueprint.
And I'll just kind of speak to also my psychology background of understanding development and people on that scale. So have a minor in psychology, but also a master's in psych. And for me, bef- as I was thinking of business, especially from the endless opportunities angle, we need the tools of psychology to in order to really have impact with our young people,
Mm,
because it's a super layered, it's a super layered situation. But we're dealing with young people who have, whether they're in middle school or high school, have had years of maybe some defeating self-talk that
yeah, yeah,
that's
good
been
point.
operated. Maybe the lack of confidence because someone projected that onto you. Um, but also, we've all been in the uncomfortable situations, as John expressed, where you had an etiquette, you're at the dinner and you're
Mm,
being evaluated whether you know it or not,
that's
and
right.
you're having the wrong fork. Now your anxiety's up. You have to have a coping strategy on how to bring yourself back down so your anxiety doesn't interrupt the experience and also potentially lose you an opportunity. So when I was going through the lead by example piece, some of that is also some psychology of it as well. But then
Hmm.
there's some legality too. Like, there's some things in there that in order to be effective in this space, for any adult working with students, you should be in a public place. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
you got to be aware of.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, because on the other side of that is some things that I would never want anybody to go through who has the heart in the right place and maybe end up in a bad position, man. And so yeah, so it's just a how to, and hopefully that that can contribute to more people in
That's good.
considering being mentors, and I think it will.
That's good. I see that the house is probably up now, right? Am I
Oh,
hearing the little
you
babies in
hear
the
my voice?
background?
Hey, look, man, I tell you what, when you talk about juggling. We have me and my wife, man. We have an awesome partnership, but she has them until I get off the call, and then I jump right in dad mode. And the pandemic has been a blessing on that regard,
Yeah.
because prior to it, I typically leave in the morning, come back in the evening. But nowadays, I get to pop in on the boys and give hugs and kisses, through the workday, and that means a lot to me as well. And
Yeah.
I think you mentioned it earlier. How do we make sure our kids understand the value of the work? And for me, I'm an early father, but they'll be with me as soon as these little guys are all, well, the oldest is potty trained. As soon as that young one is potty trained, and they will throw on the shoes and hop in the car, man. I have to ensure that they are a part of meetings as much as they can, see their dad in action, so they understand as they get older, even if they're 12, 14 years old, you have a responsibility not only to the family, but to the community, and make sure that
Yeah.
they know what it looks like to actually do it. So I'm not, as a father, encouraging them to do something that they don't that I've never done. You know what I
I
mean?
love that. I love that. I was reading, it was some old school, we're talking like the 1700s person. And that's what he did with his kids. He exposed them to people that he was around, right? He showed them, and these were heavyweights, right?
Yeah.
But he brought his kids to those heavyweight meetings. he introduced him. So now his Rolodex became their Rolodex. And they were able to leverage that. And then, of course, the kids grew up together saying, hey, I've seen you around a lot at our dinner table, right there at the table talking business with my dad. You know what I mean? And then now it's not unfamiliar to them.
Absolutely.
Right. And they understand that, hey, I've got this network of folks that know me. I think that's really important.
And hey, Randy, and any meeting that my kids can't come to, man, I might not be there, man. And I think that would speak to the partners that's across the table, because for me, they'll be there. If I have a suit on, they'll have them a suit on too, and they'll be sitting up to the back, with a little notepad or something. But I just want them to be able to take whatever I build and understand it, appreciate it, and continue to to implement it.
That's good. So leveraging. Let's bring into some practical terms. People listening in, they're saying, okay, I got all of these ideas. We talked about, hey, creating the standard operating procedure so you can pass it on to either the virtual assistants, the actual assistants, or whoever you're working with, right? So you can now go out and do some things. We also talked about co-founding, right? For impact and maybe your weaknesses. I'm weak in this area, so my co-founder is strong in this area, right? And then I really loved something you said earlier. You said that understanding their journey may not be yours. That is so key. I've worked with people sometimes, you're racing ahead and they're still at A. And you're like, what are you doing at A? Well, I had to make sure A was okay before I went to B while you're at Z. You know what I mean? So that's somebody covering your backside.
You move fast, Randy. You move fast, buddy.
And it's about getting it done. But then you also have to have that person that says, well, great, it's done, but now I also know it's done right. And I know it's done in a way that's going to be most effective. How cool is that? And then the legacy and the versus the income, not versus, but understanding legacy and income and being able to, as John talked about, being in the social aspect of what you're doing and what you're giving to society when you leave this earth. One thing that I wanted to add in here is, if someone's listening in and they're saying, okay, give me your process from ideation to actual, right? To the creation part of it. What could you share from the ideation standpoint to the actual creation of your projects? What do you go through on a daily basis?
So the first thing from ideation, I read a book about the blue ocean strategy.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and I typically like to take the path less traveled, simply because it's not so convoluted with what has been done before.
With red ocean.
It gives you the opportunity to really create without the bias of what happened before. So when I think of an idea, typically I try to think of an idea that has very little competitors in that space. And if there are competitors, there's different levels to competition. Making sure that whatever you do is formidable, especially as it relates to industry. Does your website look like, does your website look like industry? Those things. So when I think of an idea, typically blue ocean strategy, then from there, it's got to start proving concept, right? So you got to start surveying and talking to people and figuring out if this is something that will even be
needed. That's right.
Value to others, because I think in maybe the last 5-10 years, now we're really shifting to user-centered, which I think is phenomenal, because history just told us that providers gave you what they wanted to give you.
That's right.
But now with technology, customers could actually leave that review and say, oh, that one sauce that you put in for 10 nuggets, that's not gonna really satisfy me on this end. So I would love to. If y'all gave 2, I'll come back again. And just the opportunity for iteration and feedback of what you're doing is through the roof right now. And then I think, for me, one of my sweet spots is just being a builder. Like, I'm cool with having nothing on the paper, no resources in the pipeline, and going to figure out where they are.
That's good
But
stuff.
I'm not I know, once I get things up and running, I'm not the best at the day-to-day operations of the company. Like,
Mhm.
I could build it, and then I need to, pass that off to
That's right.
someone else, because I understand that one of my strengths is just as a builder. I'm cool with going through the unknown and building this thing from scratch. But once it's up and running, I need to pass it off to someone who's a little more of an analyst, thinker, more of a um, uh, yeah, I would just say an implementer.
The operations person, right? I mean, and this is
But,
what we find with the founders.
mhm,
Founders are really typically good at a thing,
yeah,
right? And I was listening to Spotify, the founder, and how he is transitioning from just creating the thing and how he's had to shift himself
mhm,
and think differently and get more tools and learn, right? Being that consummate learner, that lifelong learner, because he was now shifting into a public company from
mm,
coming up, making no money, but just having a whole bunch of ideas out there, right? And then now to a public company that's front facing, that has regulatory, blah, blah, blah. And he is the CEO. And it's so rare that
yeah,
you'll have that CEO that's still running the company when it
mhm,
becomes a public company. Some of them, blow out like the Uber guy,
yeah,
did.
yeah,
You
yeah.
get
But
big and next you can't handle some of the other stuff.
to your point, I think he had the awareness to see where it was going, but then he also had the drive to change, right?
Yeah,
Like, in order to the change piece is tough. I mean,
yeah,
it's
it is.
you've been
The
doing it
drive
for
to
so
change.
long, and you've had success there. But I remember, I was listening to a Jay-Z talk some time ago, but it was just about reinventing yourself, right? And constantly on the journey of ownership, business ownership, you're going to have to reinvent yourself to continue to grow. Number one,
Mhm.
yourself, but to also grow your company, and that will require you to put on a different hat than you're used to wearing. And for myself, that's one of the things that I always think about is, what's next for me. What I've achieved is already done, so I don't really. I have a kind of a quarterback's mindset.
Next
Very
play.
short, very short term. So once I
What's the
got
next
the
play?
yeah, I got the award on Tuesday. All right, what's the next play? And sometimes I find myself maybe not maybe celebrating the small wins as much as I
Yeah,
should,
yeah, yeah.
and that's tough for sometimes my wife or family, because I'm just simply like, where do we go next?
Yeah,
And sometimes I have to step back and just be appreciative of how far we
yeah.
came.
That's smelling the roses, right? And I know Robert, a good friend of ours, John Robert Heath, Senior, talks about that a lot in his thriving chaos approaches, right? He says you got to be careful of continually moving the goalpost, right?
Yeah.
And I have been that move the goalpost person, and my wife says, "Dude," I says, "I'm not doing enough." And you're like, "Are you kidding me right now?"
Yeah.
Books,
Yeah.
blogs, websites, blah. And I'm going, that's not enough. I'm moving the goalpost,
Hmm.
right? And not taking that time, like you talked about. You got to take the time to go, you know what? That's okay. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
And being gracious with yourself. So,
Yeah.
you entrepreneurs, if you're listening in on this is what we're talking about, not just the standard operating procedures and the legacy to income, but we're also talking about how you treat you.
So Randy, I gotta ask you. So, how are you navigating that, man? Because I feel like you put up a new goalpost already this week, man.
All the time. I mean, and what I try to do is knowing some of my weaknesses and strengths,
Hmm.
right? Is like you talked about, is saying, okay, I'm really good at starting.
Hmm.
I'm really good at, motivating myself to that thing. But at the same time, I'm really good at moving the goalpost. So
Yeah.
then what do I do?
Yeah.
So I try to create things that don't take me having to be there lording over them all the time.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
try to introduce the automations to the processes, right? So I create in the spaces I like to create are in the digital space because
Hmm.
I can create that thing once, turn it on, and it
Hmm.
can run for a long time. Whether it
Absolutely.
is a digital book, whether it's a digital product, whether it's an e-course. So when I'm creating this, I say, okay, it's done. Now what I can do is turn it on, put some, some assistance behind it. And then I can go to this next project because that thing is now on. It's a product. It's like a movie that can continually, be shown to people on different platforms, right?
Yeah.
And then so you say, hey, listen, I want to do a sequel. You go, okay, who can we get to do that? Because the source material is already there.
Love
You
it.
have the chance to now repurpose in a whole different way. So I like creating those kind of things. If it was the corner store, I'd be in trouble.
No doubt.
Seriously, right? Because you gotta show up every day and all that. And that is, in my estimation, doesn't give the best value from what I could bring to it.
Absolutely.
Right. And John and I, we mastermind on this stuff personally. As we're doing these masterminds, we are learning, we're taking notes, we're hearing a new approach. Typically during the week, I'll send John a message. Hey, that's why I told you, I said, I'm gonna send a pigeon over to your house because you didn't respond to that last text.
No doubt.
Right? And it was talking about, it says, in the area of ineffable socks, what is do you remember that message now? It says, what is that area?
It is the give back, the nonprofit, right? Mm-hmm. The philanthropy piece.
Right. I says, what is your philanthropic approach to or division within ineffable socks? And I was asking it for a particular reason because I had thought about a couple of things and I thought, man, this could be a very interesting approach. So I send it over. I said, let's mastermind on this. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I do. I like to create those things that can then be automated and leverage forever.
And then also I just hear that, you can only harvest the seeds that you plant, right?
So it's good stuff.
You're not planting any seeds. In order to grow a plant, we all know it's different stages. So you plant it, give a little water, let the sun, warm it up. Eventually it come out the ground, just need a little bit more water and sunlight, and then you'll have a finished product at some point. So I always think of the different stages of business too, like you said, from ideation to when you're actually, implementing, because, for some ideas, it's gathering the, documents, doing all the paperwork, getting all that stuff done before you can even start to share the opportunity. And I'm at that point, now with some future projects, just like, okay, well, I probably won't have to really do a ton of work until, 24 months, like, maybe some meetings here and there, but then it kind of ramp up. And it'd be it's an opportunity to my piece of having a project manager that I work with just show me on a timeline, like, all right, well, before that comes, we need to do X, Y, and B.
That's right.
X, Y, and Z. So then you can take the step back from that, dedicate to more time over there. But to your earlier point, I think I'm going to always move the goalposts, and I'm cool with that. I would much rather give everything or contribute everything that I have while I'm here. And when I think about the late great Kobe Bryant, I don't think that he left anything on the table or on the hardwood that we could say that we missed from him. I feel like he dedicated himself and beyond to the game. It showed in his work, and it's some of us who just wired that way. And as long as you know how you're wired and and understand how you're wired, and to prevent it from hindering relationships, and you have to be able to communicate to your significant other, and they have to understand who you are.
Don't crack the marriage building your business. Right. Don't crack the relationship building the thing that you want it to have benefit the thing. Right. And we see it a lot. So one of the last questions that I have for you is, and this, I've been working with a lot of entrepreneurs on this. I'll say, well, tell me your 5-year goal. Now they don't know this is kind of a setup. The 5-year goal. And then I say, tell me how you can get it done in 5 months.
In 5 months?
In 5 months. Because we're finding that, guess what?
You could get it done.
You could have that 5-year and something way outside of your control that has nothing to do with your ability, your motivation, your inspiration, none of that can affect it. So it behooves us to try to look at things in a shorter standpoint. And we've got the technology to do it now. Here's the 5-year goal. How could you get it done in 5 months? So first thing first, 5-year goal, sir. And then you know what the next question is. How can you get it done in 5 months?
Yeah. So the problem with me is I have a ton of goals. So I'm trying. So one that really speaks to me right now is having more of a digital presence. And the way that I look at that is, via YouTube and whatnot. I think about the idea of content creation, the
Yep.
value that it has, and getting out of my own way to contribute more to that space. So when it comes to a 5-year goal on that note, it would be to create a digital following that can begin to monetize while I'm still helping someone achieve something. um, when I think about that, I also think about how my sons could go to that YouTube page
That's right.
even when I'm gone and be able to say, "Oh man, this is what my dad would have did," or "This is what he said."
That's it.
So part of my 5-year plan is just to make sure that I leave as much of me with my sons in a digital space, while also helping people today. And
Man, you are in my field here, and somebody was asking me, why do you have so many different things? And I says it's all they're all digital. It was with that in mind. I've got 5 YouTube channels,
Mhm.
right? And there's a specific strategy behind this.
Understood.
And this is my third podcast.
Hmm.
And they'll go, "What are you doing?" I says, "I'm creating."
Yeah.
Right? No day is the same
Hmm. Hmm.
because of that.
Hmm.
And I thought about Thomas Edison, right? 1,000 some patents. Well, how did he do that? Well, he created an environment where he
Hmm.
could take his ideas
Hmm.
and put them somewhere and
Hmm.
monetize them. And then he brought a whole bunch of people in to work on them,
Hmm.
right? And I thought, how could you leave a legacy that we're still talking about the guy today, right? Even though Tesla was brilliant,
Yeah.
right? And he worked for Edison at a point, you still think about Edison.
Yeah.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Brilliance be darned. This guy put a system in place, put standard operating procedures to create patents, to have things, from a legacy standpoint, still lasting today. So as you think about your digital presence, all of those channels are opportunities to put all of those ideas. And
Yeah.
then you're bringing in your technical experience and opportunities to leverage them all. And you
Yeah.
can grow them all and they can monetize and pay your family for a long time.
So yeah, man, I want to be able to be pandemic proof. Be able to
Pandemic proof.
be able to work from the house and create a good living and be fully self-employed. 5 years from
What's
now
up?
for
Well,
sure.
you guys
So
look at my home office right now, right? I
yeah, I
got
was gonna
stuff up
say.
on the board. But this is the wonderful thing. And I've been doing this for several years now, right? And I remember when I gave my job back to the economy. It
Mhm.
was with that 3 years ago, 3 years in March. I
And I
gave
gave
it
my
back to the
job back to
economy.
the economy.
Yeah, gave it
Yeah.
back and says, "Hey, you guys can have this because I want to explore things in the digital space." And we're talking about not doing this at 20, not doing it at 30,
Yeah.
but doing it older and saying, "Can I navigate this?" Asking that big question and then saying, "Well, what do I need?"
Hmm.
Right? First, I started finding out I need to talk to people like John, and I need to really say, "Okay, hey, I need to co-found some stuff because there's no way I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna blow myself away.
Hmm.
I'm gonna blow myself up trying to do all of it."
Yeah.
And so it's helped me think about this. And then it's like, well, I can leverage everything from a digital standpoint,
Hmm.
right? And I
Yeah.
can say, okay, I can have multiple podcasts because you have multiple conversations
Yeah.
and audiences to talk to.
Yeah. And then also, I just think we understand that, we don't have to just be good at one thing. I think
Right.
we're shedding that as a society to where you have to have one good thing and you stick to it. Now we're able to have, several good things.
Multi
And
hyphenate.
yeah,
Right? Multi hyphenate. I do this, this,
yeah.
and
And
this.
I think that's cool too because us as humans, we're not a monolith. We don't do one thing every day. And then to your point, each new day brings new opportunities. So I remember when I was thinking, well, we were brainstorming on, endless opportunities, the simple concept of it is every day my glass is half full. I know it's opportunities coming in and I need to figure out what to do with them. And I think a lot of people drop off there, right? Like
I
it's an
love that.
opportunity, but what do I do with it? Or it's going to take some rolling up the sleeves and getting to work. And or you know, as they say, success is opportunities dressed in hard work. You know what I
I
mean?
love it. I love
Everybody
it.
doesn't want to do that, but I look at it as a challenge. And once I get on the other side, I feel a little better. So I wanted, to your point, I want to get away from, well, not get away from. I want to get into more content creation. You know,
Yeah.
digital products that could live on for generations that I don't have to hover over all day, because the businesses that you do have to hover over, it provides you a unique perspective. But then I think that appreciation for the digital space is even greater
Exactly.
after you go through that. So I want to have a balance of both, but longer term, just continue to create more of a digital footprint and
I love
uh,
it.
be
I
able
love
to
it.
one day bring the kids into the digital space as well.
Yep. Say, hey, here you go. Right. You can take over that division,
Yeah.
the digital division of Dad Incorporated. Hey John,
Look, I already know my sons. They gonna want their name in there somewhere. So, but the fifth he naturally gets. You know, the fifth he's Alvin too, so he doesn't mind.
I love that. I
Right
love that.
with that.
So
So,
John, as we wrap up, man, I tell you, I have enjoyed Alvin coming on and talking with us, right? Sharing his perspective, sharing how he's juggling all of this stuff. Alvin, before we turn you over to John with his question, can you tell us or our audience where they can find you if they so choose to?
okay, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Alvin J Hills the fourth. The fourth is a Roman numeral 4, so IV at the end. For endless opportunities, endlessopportunities.org. Is our website. Please go there, look, learn more about us, and we'll always love to chat about ways that we can get you involved. For the Midwest Tech Project, midwesttechproject.com. Uh, Pretty much the same thing. If you're a local tech company, if you're someone who works in tech that would like to share your expertise, if you're looking for opportunities in technology from a job placement standpoint, you're a tech entrepreneur, we'll love to talk to you as well. Um, yeah, so between
Good
those
stuff.
two, my social media handles is the best place to find me. And maybe one day you'll see me in person somewhere again.
And leading by
After,
example, the eight effective
after
principles. When can they
after this
expect that
past
to drop
year.
out?
Man, so Randy, you've been on me about that, man. So one thing about me is sometimes I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and
I understand.
craft it and have it the best, the best way. But my birthday is April 4th, so I'll be looking to release that then. So you'll see the marketing start to come and
Nice.
go and give that to the world, because I have other things to give to the world. And
Nice. That's a
uh,
digital presence.
yeah, and Randy, I appreciate you, man, because you like, hey, man, look, this your first one. Just get it out there. And part of me is always, and that's why I need the team that I have to say, hey, we take it from you, we go put it out ourselves. You know what I mean? Because if you
Just
leave it
give me
with
the
me,
PDF, man. I'll
yeah,
start.
if you leave it with me the whole time, like, man, I could add there and I could
Oh,
do
yeah,
this.
yeah,
But sometimes, man, I just let it fly and
yeah.
give it to the world and get ready for that next one.
That's it. Volume 2, 3, 4, and 5. I
Man,
mean,
look,
that's what it comes down to, right?
yeah,
So
Jay-Z had
yeah,
the blueprint, man. And
that's what's up.
you always looking forward for another blueprint.
It's great. So John, what was one of the questions that you had for Alan before we wrap on up?
Absolutely. One comment really quick in regards to watering those seeds. Randy and I have talked about that numerous times on the show. And I think a lot of business owners, when they start a business, they don't realize that they're planting bamboo tree seeds.
Mm,
So it might take a little longer than 9 months. It might take 5 years.
hmm
But the consistency behind watering those seeds and making sure that it gets sunlight
hmm
is so powerful. And then the other thing, the last thing that I have is, in growing up in America, I think we're sold a bill of gold, bit of fool's gold, And one of those is the phrase that gets thrown around a lot, that I pulled myself up from the bootstraps.
Mm. Mm.
Because we talked
Yeah.
about mentors and how their influences in your life, even if you refuse to recognize them or not, there are things that go on that form us into who we end up becoming. What would you say to an entrepreneur that says they pulled themselves up from the bootstraps, or someone who is hesitant to go into the entrepreneurial space because they think they have to pull themselves up from the bootstraps?
That's good.
Yeah, I would say bootstraps is subjective, right? So everybody has their own definition of what bootstrapping is. And I would say for any entrepreneur, uh, it's a certain amount of bootstrapping that has to take place. If you have the idea, you have to work the idea. Even if you have the uncle who has the financial means, you're still going to have to work the idea to position yourself for your uncle to transfer that funding. Or the entrepreneur who has funding but just doesn't know what to do, what to do with it. So I think bootstrapping is subjective. However, I just feel we all have to do some form of work
Mm-hmm.
to get the product or the concept to where it needs to be to go to the next level. And no, some people do have it far worse than others. And data supports that when it comes to investment into minority companies and whatnot. So but I'm starting to get to the point in my business journey where it seems like the money is typically now the easier thing to find. You
I
know,
agree.
if you have the great idea, the money will find you. But for an entrepreneur who has no, and this is my experience, I grew up in a family where business wasn't the conversation at the table. Business wasn't the after conversation at the table. Shit, business just only was talked about in regards to what your employer said. And for me, um, that was limiting. So once I got to college and go to the business school, get access to the fraternity, I had a ton of fraternity brothers who were business owners. And now I get the opportunity to ask Bill Picard, a gentleman who was one of the first minority suppliers to the Big Three in Detroit. How did you do that? And
Mm-hmm.
their story is so fascinating because it was three fraternity brothers who held each other accountable, ideated, dreamed big, went into business together, all with specific roles, and were able to achieve what they were looking to do. So, for those who are scared, who are have trepidation or a little nervous about becoming a business owner because of the work it's going to take, I always see the meme: choose your hard. So, you could choose.
That's good. Choose your hard.
You could choose a higher way of not knowing where your next dollar is going to come from, or being single income. Uh, or you could choose your heart of building a business and being able to control your income and being able to help people and hire people and provide a solution to a problem in the world. So gotta simply choose your heart. And for me, I'm gonna choose the second one and see where the chips fall. But yeah, the bootstrapping piece, I was just having a conversation with someone. It's kind of more in the athletic space, but everybody believes that they, the person who starts from nothing, the person who starts from nothing, victory is more significant than the person who might have started with just a little bit. You know, it's all subjective. And for me, no matter what avenue you take as a business owner, you're going to have to roll up your sleeves, get to work. It's going to be things that you have, it's going to be missing pieces. And as long as you continue to push forward to acquire the missing pieces to grow the business, then kudos to you.
Well, all right, everybody, y'all heard it. Choose your hard. That's what I wanted to. I actually looked that up to see, how much information is out there about it. Right.
Hey, look, man. Now, look, I see where you're going with it, man.
Blue Ocean, baby.
Let's have a follow-up conversation.
Blue Ocean. Choose your hard. The new way by. So
Love a
you heard
follow-up
it.
interview, Randy. I'm just,
Hey,
choosing your hard,
choose your hard. God dog it. That's a good one, man. That's gonna stick. I can see it right now.
Love it, guys. Love it.
Everybody, you have been treated to. You have been treated to gold nuggets. Have you picked them up? Right? Did you come with nothing to put in, put the gold nuggets in? If that's the case, then you're just gonna have some, you're gonna have to remember them, I guess.
Yeah.
But here it is. We appreciate you coming on, man, and dropping this knowledge on us. Man, did we get a treat today, John?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Alvin. Has been such a pleasure. I enjoyed hearing your story and you sharing your valuable insights with not only us but also our listenership. Very, very wise, very powerful information that I think it will be beneficial to anyone who dares to listen.
Awesome.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. Really love what you both contribute to our ecosystem, outside of this podcast opportunity. Continue to do the good work, whether it's in the digital space or the funding space, in order for us to, be the best version of us as an ecosystem. It's going to take all our contributions. And yeah, man, I'm just hoping anything that I've shared from my lived experience could help someone somewhere. And appreciate the opportunity.
Choose your heart,
Thanks,
everybody.
Alvin.
Choose your heart.
Randy,